In this video, we're talking about different ways that you might be asked to find the perimeter of a rectangle. And remember that a rectangle is a special type of quadrilateral, which is a four-sided figure, in which the four-sided figure has four 90-degree interior angles. So we've got a four-sided figure, and each of the corners is a right angle. It's a 90-degree angle. The formula we're going to be using to find the perimeter of a rectangle is P for perimeter is equal to 2 times the base plus 2 times the height, or 2b plus 2h. So in a previous video, we talked about finding the area of a rectangle, where the area was equal to base times height. When we find the perimeter, though, what we're looking for is the distance all the way around the rectangle. So in other words, if you had to walk all the way around the outside of a rectangle, how far would you walk? That's the idea of perimeter. And of course, the opposite sides of a rectangle are congruent. So in this example, the length AD here has to be equal to the length IL. And the length DL, this height here, has to be equal to AI, since ADLI is a rectangle. So if I know the length of the base, I need to multiply it by 2 to account for the top and the bottom. And then if I know the height, I need to multiply that by 2 to account for the right side and the left side. Adding all four of those together is going to give me the perimeter of the rectangle. You could also think about it as base plus height, or 2b plus 2h. So in this first example here, we have this somewhat complicated figure. We've been given some measurements of the figure, and we've been asked to find the perimeter of rectangle ADLI. So if I identify ADLI, I can find my points here, A, D, L, and I. So it's the outermost rectangle. It's the largest rectangle. I want to find the perimeter. Well, I've already been told that the base, the length of AD, is 15 units, and that the height, the length DL here, is 11 units. So I can just say 15 plus 15 to account for the top and bottom, plus 11 to account for the left and right. And of course, I could simplify that to 2 times 15 plus 2 times 11, and that's going to give me 30 plus 22, or 52. And you can see here that this is the base and this is the height, so it's really just 2 times the base plus 2 times the height, and I get the perimeter of the rectangle. What about if I want to find the perimeter of rectangle CDLK? Well, I need to go find CDLK. I can see my points here, C, D, L, and K. So it's this rectangle on the right-hand side here that I want to find the perimeter of. Well, I already know that the height is 11, so I'm going to have to say 2 times 11 to account for the left and right-hand sides. But I need the base, and I don't have the base yet because I don't know the length of CD or the length of KL. However, I have been told that the length of AD is 15 units, and that the length of AC is 13 units, this measurement right here. If it takes me 13 units to get from A to C, and it only takes me 15 units to get from A all the way to D, then I know that the length of CD here has to be the difference of those two, 15 minus 13, or 2. So I can say that the length, or the base, of this rectangle is 2, and then I can plug that into my perimeter formula and say 2 times 2, the length being 2, multiplying that by 2 to account for the top and bottom of the rectangle to get the perimeter. So 2 times 2 gives me 4, so 4. 2 times 11 gives me 22, so I get 4 plus 22, or 26, as the perimeter of CDLK. What about the last example here, the perimeter of BCHG? Well, I can find here rectangle BCHG. It's this rectangle in the middle at the top. Again, I'm going to need base and height, and I want to multiply each of those by 2. So plus 2 like this is going to be equal to, so base and height. Well, I already have the height. I've been told that the distance between C and H is 4, so that's going to be the height of this rectangle, so I can go ahead and plug that into my formula. And now we just need the base of that rectangle. Well, if we look at the last example where we found the perimeter of CDLK, we found that the base of CDLK was 2. So I know that the distance between C and D is 2. I know that the distance between K and L is 2. And I was given in the problem that the distance between J and L was 10. So the distance between J and K has to be the difference of 10 and 2, or 8. So this distance here from J to K is 8, and I know that that's the same distance as the length here, GH, the distance between G and H. So I can go ahead and say that that is 8 as well, and that's going to go ahead and be my base. So now if I simplify 2 times 8, I get 16, plus 2 times 4 is 8. 16 plus 8 is going to be equal to 24. So the perimeter of BCHG is 24 units. Now what happens if I want to go the other way? In this case, I've been told that the perimeter of my rectangle is 72 centimeters, and that the base of the rectangle, that same rectangle, is 3 times the height, and I need to find the dimensions of the rectangle. So this is like working in the opposite direction. So what I'm really going to need to do is set up 2 equations and then use a substitution to solve for the dimensions. So the first thing I know is that the perimeter is 72 centimeters. So what I can say is that 72 centimeters is going to be equal to 2 times the base plus 2 times the height, right? I can plug 72 directly into my perimeter formula and get this equation. If I go ahead and divide through every term in this equation by 2 to simplify it, I'm going to get 36 is equal to b plus h. So here's my first equation. Then I know that the base of my rectangle is 3 times the height. So I can say the base is going to be equal to 3 times the height. Since I have here a value for b, I know it's 3h, I can plug that into this equation here for b and say 36 is equal to, instead of b, I'll put in 3h and get 3h plus h. So then when I do my arithmetic here, I'll get 36 equals 4h, dividing both sides by 4, h is equal to 9. So the height's going to be equal to 9. I want to go ahead then, now that I have a value for h, and plug it back into this equation to find a value for b. So when I do that, I'll get b is equal to 3 times h, or since we know h is 9, 3 times 9, and then I can say b is equal to 27. In other words, the dimensions of the rectangle, base times height, is going to be equal to 27 by 9, and I could say 27 centimeters and 9 centimeters because I was told that the perimeter was 72 centimeters. So my rectangle is going to have a base of 27 centimeters and a height of 9 centimeters. If I want to double check this in my original equation here, I can say 72, the perimeter, has to be equal to 2 times the base, or 2 times 27 to account for the top and bottom, plus 2 times the height to account for the left and right hand sides. And we said that the height was 9. So I should get here 72 equals 72. I'm going to get 72 equals 54 plus 18, which is in fact 72 equals 72. So when I double check it in that equation, it checks out. So I know that my dimensions are correct, and the dimensions of the rectangle are 27 by 9.